Kingsley Aroh. Welcome
Yes,
to my podcast. It's a pleasure to have you, brother.
definitely a pleasure, brother, to speak with you. It's been a while. It's been a while. I was wondering when, if I was going to get called to the podcast, especially with the caliber of people that I've seen come through here. But
And
yeah,
I,
I do appreciate it.
and I appreciate you joining as well. And you are among the caliber of people.
I appreciate it.
That's why I reached out to you.
I appreciate it. No problem. Yeah.
Anyways, Kingsley, could you introduce yourself a little bit, please?
All right. So my name is Chukwudi Kingsley Aroh. I In terms of introduction, I mean, uh, that's pretty much my name in terms of what I do or how our relationship, pretty much started. Um, right now, I'm currently working as a sales account executive role with a tech company. Even though we met doing our master's degree over a decade ago in Windsor. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much in terms of introduction for me. Yeah,
Thanks for that introduction. And 10 years, it's been a long time, and I'm happy we're gonna catch up today.
my pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. So, Kingsley, I just want to start off our conversation with Vancouver. You are in Vancouver, and I
Yes,
have
I
to
am.
say that strikes. It's unique to
It
some extent.
is.
It is unique because for most of us who came to Canada and who's living in Canada as immigrants, most of us live in
Yeah,
Ontario, Alberta. Most of the people that I know, you
yeah.
know, and you choose the unique spot of Vancouver. So I was just wondering, how did your journey get you to Vancouver?
So if I'm being totally honest, I mean, I have chosen to stay in Vancouver.
Mm.
Um, uh, but in terms of me choosing, I'm not sure if I would say I totally woke up and it was a conscious decision that, oh, I would move here in the first place. Right now, obviously, I've decided to make here a little bit more of a, I don't want to call it home, but pretty much where I'm based at again for the foreseeable future. But
That sounds like home to me.
yeah, no, I agree with you. But that's why when I talk about how did I get here, it was pretty much two reasons. The first one was with regards to the weather. And I wouldn't say the weather was the main reason why I moved here, but
Mhm.
I'm not great with cold weather, and being in Vancouver makes it a little bit easier for me. Even though the rain is another thing that we're going to talk about later, but that's one of it. But in terms of how my journey kind of like brought me here, I would kind of say that for me in particular, there's always been certain aspects of will I say a more rounded life that I wanted. Um, that when I moved to Windsor, I wasn't really getting that. I've always been, more interested in a lot of, things that this area in particular, gave me that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that is just has to do with the style of living, or I'm not sure if that's what they call it, or the lifestyle. Um, so that was kind of like one of the things that drew me here. But the main reason why I was able to come here was just because of work. Um, Initially, when I graduated, the company I was working for, or the company I was fortunate to get a job with, most of their places of work was in BC.
Okay.
So fortunately for me, I was able to move around within some of their locations. And then, fortunately, when I came to like Vancouver or the Sunshine Coast, they had a mill in the Sunshine Coast where I was working. This place was the closest, or where I liked the most, And for me, I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna stay here. So that's sort of like what the journey has been. Obviously, how that journey happened, because I don't want to jump the gun in terms of how you want this, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty much how I would look at it in terms of how it
You got
was.
to
Yeah,
Vancouver.
it was
Yeah.
like certain things brought me here, but
Uh,
then you know, the package kept me here. Yeah, that's what
okay.
I'll put. That's how I'll put it. Yeah,
And you know what? I went to Vancouver last year, and I gotta say, man, Vancouver is beautiful.
it is.
It's really beautiful. After my vacation, I came back. I started looking for jobs in Vancouver, and then I saw the house prices, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. And for me, again, like you mentioned, that's a drawback.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of being able to, decide that, oh, this is where you want to stay. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about, for me, how do I, sort of like balance it out into, okay, it's expensive here,
Yeah,
or I guess the housing is expensive here, but maybe at this stage of my life, these are the things that I want. Maybe in a
yeah.
different stage of my life, maybe I need a house that with a backyard, this and that. Oh yeah, sure. Maybe I can, come join you guys in, in Ontario or even in Calgary.
I'm in Ottawa, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But at the end of the day, I just looked at it and I'm like, at this stage in my life where I'm still, active, I'm still, really a lot of my interests are being satisfied with being here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm most likely going to, ride it until, maybe things change.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta say, when I was there, the first thing I noticed was a difference in the cuisine. I don't know, man. It seems as if you guys have the best chefs
Mm,
in Vancouver because they.
yeah.
I noticed the difference. By
Oh,
the
yeah.
way, in terms of entertainment, it's there. You have
Yeah.
the hills, you have the oceans. It's like pretty much you have everything.
Yeah.
Maybe you would say the weather, the rain, might be a little bit too
Yes.
much.
Exactly.
Yeah, but pretty much I think you guys have it all.
No, I would say just like you mentioned in some of those areas, yes, great. Obviously, I don't want to, start, talking about some of the downsides because I want to
Mhm.
focus on the positives here. And it's not like, this podcast is focused on bringing people to Vancouver. So I'm not
Mhm.
going to, focus on those areas.
Mhm.
But yeah, just like you mentioned, the cuisine, the outdoors, and also like next weekend, I'm planning to go to Kelowna. So I'm not sure if you've been there. It's like a
No, I'm
couple
not.
hours from here. Has a bunch of wineries, lakes, all of that. It just makes it a lot beautiful for you to just get out and enjoy the summer.
Yeah.
So some of these things are things that are more interest to me right now.
Mhm.
Maybe in a year or in a couple of years things will change, but yeah, I just enjoy. And I'm not saying that some of these things are not in Ontario,
Yeah.
but it's just the whole combination of uh, everything that makes it a little bit more juicier
Yeah.
here.
I
And
gotta
then,
say, like, I gotta say, in terms of experience,
yeah,
I
exactly.
think the experience is just something else. It's on
Yeah,
another level. So yeah.
which you pay for, but it's
Well, enjoy it, man. You
yeah,
gotta enjoy. You gotta make the best of it for sure.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, Kingsley, I want to go into the professional aspect of things.
Let's get into it.
Starting off from Windsor all
Yeah,
the way to where you are at now. You started off as an engineer, doing your master's as an engineer, and then
yeah,
moved into sales. That's where
yes,
you're currently in.
yeah,
I think that's a very, in my from my point of view, right? Maybe you're experiencing it all, but from my point of view, I feel like that's a unique experience, and I think
yeah.
it's something that I would like for you to share with me today. Is how did you transition from engineering into, um, sales?
Yeah. All right. How did I do that transition? So obviously, just to give a little bit background in terms of how things happened. right?
Mhm.
Obviously we all went to do our masters in Windsor. At the time, we're really just itching to go out there and do some really good work. So for me, and I was fortunate as well, if I'm being honest. I was very fortunate because even before graduating, I already had a job as an engineer.
Oh wow, I didn't know that, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that part, that's why again, like my story is very unique because
Hmm.
before graduating, I already had a good. I remember the day I even got the offer because I was just like I can't remember what the name of that street is where all the students are just like hanging out.
Olet, Olet,
Yeah, yeah,
Olet,
exactly.
Olet, yeah.
Or Lights Ave, I think. And
Yeah, Olet Avenue, yes.
so prior to that, I've been applying to a couple of jobs here and there. But fortunately for me, I had applied to one particular job at the time, and I didn't really think much of it.
Hmm.
Right. It was just supposed to be for a pulp and paper company at the time, where I was supposed to go in there and really just help them with some of their electrical and instrumentation maintenance, or kind of capital projects, all of that good stuff. And yeah, I remember when I got the call because just the same way, us students were just in one person's house because that's really our fun time.
Hmm.
And just waiting. I think we were waiting for food or something, or we're just like someone was cooking and we're just like waiting for the food to get done. And after the food gets done and everyone is like grabbing their spoon, hey, let's say, hey, leave this meat for me, all of that. And then fortunately, I got the call. The HR is like, oh, no, no, we'd like to offer you the job, yada, yada, yada. Um, and I remember at the time, I was just like, hey, send me the contract, let me see before, because at that time, I had not even graduated.
Hmm.
So for you to even want to give me a job, it was, and also
Yeah.
moving from Nigeria to there, really looking for that first break. So
Yeah.
everything was so surreal,
Hmm.
right? So I just went into the other room, and I came back, and he actually sent me the email with the contract. And as soon as I saw it, I lost my appetite. I, I was like, you guys can have the food, all of that. So I actually did get the job even before I like wrote my last exam with U Windsor. I
Oh,
remember my
impressive, man.
Yeah. So I remember my last exam. I was like, okay, I only need 20 marks so that I can, pass this course and be done. So that was like the easiest exam I ever written, going into it. But so that's why I'm saying that I already got the job, working as an, electrical engineer at the time. And the job took me, so I didn't even stay for graduation. I flew to Saskatchewan initially, with the company, then flew to, trying to remember, it was in the northern part of BC. I think it was Dawson Creek. Yeah,
Okay.
right. So there, and then afterwards moved to, they had a mill on the coast, on the Sunshine Coast. So that's where I was with them, or I was with the company for about 4 years, maybe slightly over 4 years.
Kingsley, just I don't want to cut your train of thought. Sorry there,
Yeah,
but I just wanted to ask this question because
yeah.
it's itching.
Okay, yeah,
Did you had any prior experience from in Nigeria that was the determining factor for you getting the job? Because you know how it is, the
yeah,
struggle it is when we're trying to get a job
yeah,
um uh, as a newly graduate.
yeah. So I did have prior experience. I wouldn't say it was an engineering experience. It was mostly, so I would say I had like a year and a half, but it wasn't like core engineering. It was more on IT,
Hmm.
right? But I did have some experience, maybe for like a year and a half experience. But for me, if you ask me and say, "Hey, what do you think what even helped me get the job?" Um, I wouldn't particularly say it was the experience because the company at the time was looking for fresh graduates.
Okay.
right? So I think it was just time and place, number one, like just finding a company that was looking for fresh graduates.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was also not looking for, I was really at that time looking for any opportunity, regardless of where it was, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this company was in Saskatchewan, right? I've never, I'm,
Yeah, I know, I know. Nobody thinks about Saskatchewan.
exactly, especially when you're in Ontario. I'd
Exactly.
never, so it was also me just putting myself out there in terms of a lot of the opportunities or any opportunity at the time. And that's something that I would also recommend to people who are looking to get started. Obviously, I'm
Mhm.
not saying it's ideal, um, but yeah, at that time, I was, if you wanted to take me to Newfoundland, if you wanted to take me to the boonies, wherever it was, as long as I was getting that raw experience or that big break, because I always feel like, the first one is the hardest.
Mhm.
Um, Afterwards, obviously, you still have to go in there and do the work and prove yourself and, add value to the organization. Um, but I always feel like the first one is the hardest. Afterwards, then you can start picking and choosing, especially if you haven't had a really good resume to fall back on. I
Mhm.
was one of those. I couldn't, or I didn't have a great, sorry, not a good resume, a great resume to fall back on.
Okay.
And I didn't have a lot of networks. I mean, we just moved to Canada, right?
Go ahead.
So that's really how I would answer that in terms of making that first big break. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
So, so,
yeah, go ahead.
so you did 4 years in this company
Hmm.
as as an engineer, electrical engineer. What was the next step in your
Yeah.
career? Let's say.
So for me, um, I mean, at the time working in the organization, I was pretty much looking at my mentor in the company, and he was a seasoned electrical engineer. He's probably been at the company for maybe 25 years, 30 years at the time. He
Mhm.
knew the in and outs of every drawing, every project that they've done. And he was like, when it comes to that technical guy, sure. But at the same time, I felt like he wasn't really in control of a lot of things associated with how the mill was actually being run or decision makings on what projects were being, like, you could tell from speaking with him that there were certain things that he didn't agree with in terms of the how things were going with the
Mhm.
organization, that if he had a bigger, I don't know what the word is, if he had a bigger,
Maybe authority.
yeah, authority or something like that, he might make things a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? And even with the, now it's starting to get to the point where even your work is getting challenging for you, because why? The company is forcing you to work with certain organizations, or will I say, who don't value standards or quality as high as you would. So you can also see that not having that authority, or not also having that opportunity to be able to make a bigger impact, except from a technical perspective, where when it's time for, hey, how do we do this? They call on you, but what should we even be considering? There's always a conversation before, oh, okay, how do we? So I just felt like I also wanted to give myself that opportunity where I'm getting into those conversations, or being not just a technical guy, but also a guy who's also who has a business acumen, who understands the how
You're looking
money
at
is a
you're looking at
bigger
the bigger picture, bigger picture. So
exactly.
you're the bigger picture type of guy. You
Yeah,
you you
and
don't like
also
the.
yeah, and I also just felt like, for me, I didn't want to be a full on technical guy. Um,
Mhm.
I felt like 4, 5, 10 years, I might get bored of it. But if you are also in looking at it from a bigger perspective, it gives you a higher value to whichever organization you're working with, and that's something that you can take and you can apply it in every facet of life, even if you decide to start your own business, which is something that, personally, I'm doing, or I'm still looking into, how I can pursue a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just like what was motivating me to be like, okay, perhaps I just don't want to go down that technical path. I already got my PhD, I already got my master's. Um, yeah, I can be a seasoned, engineer. I'm not saying I was the greatest or even close. I'm not saying that I
Mm-hmm.
was, but I just wanted a little bit more in terms of not depth, but in terms of breadth of
Okay.
experience. So that was one of the reasons why at the time I was just looking, and also another reason was the fact that at the time, the positions that I was being called for, or even looking at the time, it's
Yeah.
just similar positions in remote locations. Because guess what, you are an engineer. Where are the plants? They're remote locations. I mean, unless maybe you're fortunate to work for, maybe you're working for as an engineer in the city, or a consultant, some of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah.
for most of the time, the engineers had to be where, these manufacturing, or, these locations were.
Yeah.
And that is not a great, work-life balance, at least for me, right? It was just something that I mean, you could do it for a while, but I just felt like, oh, okay, there's something better, or I wanted something better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, for me, I was also just thinking, okay, how can I, solve all these problems? I wouldn't call it a problem, but really be a little bit more picky with how I, take my next step. So that's
Okay.
when I was like, you know what, it might just be beneficial if I just, go do a business degree. Um, so that's when I went back to school, got my MBA, did my
How
MBA.
was that? How was that going back to school? Like,
It wasn't easy.
because
Um,
now you're making money, you starting to be in a very comfortable situation,
exactly.
and then you had to make this choice of going back to school
Yeah.
and doing an MBA. I believe it's not easy thing, right? It's not as easy
Uh,
as it looks.
it's not easy, and it's not cheap. That's how I'll put it. So, and also, I do know that there are some people who do MBAs full time. I have a friend who just completed his, sorry, not full time, part time. So you're
Mhm.
not really, leaving your work, um,
Going
but
to
you're also
classes.
going to classes as well. But for me, I wanted the MBA experience,
Hmm.
right? I wanted the whole experience of, being in the classroom, being fully immersed. Um, and there were also certain things associated with, I also wanted to a clean slate. I didn't want to work with the same organization as well. So but that was also another reason why I thought, you know what, I'll just do it full time.
Okay.
um, um, so that's part of the reason why I was like, okay, let me go do an MBA. This really give me an opportunity to really learn about the, everything I needed on how does a business make money? Where are those areas that you really need to look at? If you have an idea, how do you even take that idea from, just a raw idea to, confirming, hey, is this even something that um, is viable? Is this a viable product that, people really want? How do I do those market research to confirm if this is something you want to pursue? Okay, how do you start this, a little bit slower and then ramp things up if it's working? Or how do you even, work with a current customer or a current business that is, at this level, and see, okay, how you can move things a little bit higher? Right. So it was really a great experience for me, because I was really challenged working with, or being in classrooms with, like, different minds. Engineers, we see things one way, but if you
Yeah.
work with, people in a different, it's just, it's a,
It's like,
a
yeah.
whole different ball game, because
I guess we're more on the logical aspect. We're dealing with what
yeah,
data
I
and all of these things.
it's just about, oh, okay, how do you take this zero to how do you, take this to the finish line, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the time when you're working for a business, it's not just about 0 to 1. It's actually uh, it's about everything between 0 and 1. Because if you go into the a market, I'm almost certain that you're just using this as an example. This is a lip balm. There are probably
Hmm.
5, 10 different lip balms products out there. Probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
But how are you now going to be able to give yourself an edge when you're in that market,
Hmm.
right? What are those things that you need to keep an eye on to even give yourself or be able to capture market share? So, just really understanding some of those aspects of business um, just gave me an additional appreciation for uh, even some of our parents who had no idea what they were doing when they were running their business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I come from a family where, we're all business oriented, but just seeing a lot of the things that they did, which, it does make sense now when you think about it, but um, it also just helps you appreciate the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, or just even not even just the whole idea of being having something that is churning out money and being able to pay for the lifestyle of its employees and still provide enough for the investors and all of that. So um,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really a good experience for me. And I also had chances to like work with, and this is another piece where for me, I was looking at not just going into school, coming out, but
Hmm.
getting internship opportunities because that was one thing that I felt like was lacking when I went through Windsor,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Getting internship opportunities, working with actual companies to see how these things work, and then be able to test it out. That felt a little bit more, well, I say satisfying for me because I just didn't want to go through where we, similar to the masters we did, where it was just hey course based.
Hmm.
Um, this was a little bit more course practical
Yeah.
course. So it was. I felt like this one was I preferred the rhythm to it.
Okay. I like that. I like that because I'm also thinking about I also like to think about the big picture
Yeah,
and giving me this insight, that's for sure is a good it's very good. It's a good advice from you.
for sure.
Yeah. So you did your MBA, full time, you got it, and then what was your next move?
So I did my MBA. At the time, I was pretty much focused on innovation and entrepreneurship. Um, Really, how you can take a product or an idea, um, really understand who your ideal customers are, build those customer archetypes, and really try to pitch or reach out to those customers to, um, excuse me, to really grow your business. Right. So when you look at that entire process or model of business, I was really looking at it from the perspective of where do I feel like I can bring in the most value,
Okay.
right? And if you're working with maybe a startup, if you're working with maybe, any business that is still looking to grow, obviously you have perhaps the CEO who's the great mind or who has the idea. Okay, perhaps I can't be the CEO at least right now, right? So I'm
I
like,
like
okay,
that. Ambitious guy.
right. So that's why for me, when I look at it from that point, I'm like, okay, perhaps I can't. That's not the position for me right now.
Hmm.
Okay. Then we're looking at okay, the product person, people who are working on the product. Now, if you were talking about maybe an electrical or yeah, maybe. But a lot
Hmm.
of the businesses, that I'm working on or I've had opportunity, they're not even engineering related, or at least I would say because there's been more of a transition. in terms of core engineering companies being the companies that have the more market cap, to now we switching to technology, okay, IT companies. Because I know, like 5-10 years, or even before, when we were going to school, you would, if you look at the 10, maybe the top 20 companies with how do I put it, that was making the most money on the market, you would be seeing the Exxon Mobils, some of those are core engineering companies. But you can also see that there's been a more transition where it's mostly
IT
been,
com-
yeah,
IT company now.
yeah.
Okay, I don't. I haven't looked at the data or anything
Okay.
like that, so I wouldn't
So
know.
if I look at it from that point of view, I was more like, okay, this is the market or the industry that was booming at the time. Perhaps that's the area, and I just wanted to work on more of the innovative companies, and also because those were the industries that were booming.
Okay.
So looking at it, I pretty much was like, okay, I can't do this part, or if I'm going into these industries, this is really how I can. Where can I bring in this most value? It's perhaps maybe I'm not going to be the software engineering guy who's going to code. I don't have that. Obviously, I can grow it or improve that aspect, but I don't have that right now. Where is the area where I can really come in and bring more value? It's
Hmm.
going in because again, we already have that problem solving skill as an engineer,
Correct.
but the technical guys perhaps don't have the interpersonal skills, the effective communication. Again, I'm just using an example,
Hmm.
right? So I just felt like perhaps that was where I had more of a fit for me. So
Okay.
that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to work in business development or in sales where I can quickly understand our products, understand how valuable it could be for an organization,
Hmm.
and then I can take all of that information and have conversations with customers on, okay, what are you going through right now? Um, uh, what problems are you experiencing? And you really just come in with that consultative approach where you're able to, take some of those pain points and just be able to provide a solution that then we can talk about, okay, implementation. So you're more like that middleman. Um, and that would also give me the opportunity to learn more about that area where I haven't had a lot of knowledge, which is more of that technical side, right?
Hmm.
So that's really one of the main reasons why I was like, what, I think, working in BD or working in sales, it's a better fit for, my skills or, my
Hmm.
knowledge base. And I can also come in and start making a difference quicker,
Okay.
right? So that's really how I would say I got to that position. If I really give it a good thought.
Okay. So Kingsley, I had to say that like the first time I met you, there was something up that you had this ease, I would say, to
Okay.
connect with people. Right? I noticed that right off the bat. Right? And I don't know if that also contributed to you going into BD.
I would actually say it did. Um, it did because again, like when I talk to um, people, I again, I'm not saying that I intentionally try to do it, but
Mhm.
I I just want to make sure that we're having a good time, right? I just want to make sure that hey, you speak with me, even if it's just a few laughs that we're able to have.
Mhm.
When you go your way or I go my way, I've made a good impact on you,
Yeah.
right? So that's really from the perspective of how I see life. Period. We're all just here to try to make everyone. And again, I'm not saying that I'm the best at it or I do it all the time. Obviously, some people could have some negative, and
Of course. It's
but
normal.
yeah. So that's really how I look at it, and perhaps That's also one of the reasons or why I was like, you know what, this could really be a better fit for me. I can do this aspect. And if I
Hmm.
marry it with some of the other additional skills that I'm able to, or have been able to develop, it's more of a win-win from that scenario. Because being able to transition into any position, you have to understand that there are three things that would give you confidence. You know, you have to know the industry, you have to be able to speak the language, right? And you know, the third one is just you also have to be able to understand the, for example, if I'm going into and I'm selling a geology product, can you speak with geologists, right? Do you even know what geologists do,
Hmm.
right? So whatever you can give yourself to, you know, an additional edge definitely does help you, right? So that's why uh, I also just try to keep that in mind when I'm going into all any of these positions, because transitioning from engineering, yeah, that was really something that I you look at and you're like, okay, how can I be of most value, or where can I be of
Yeah,
most value with what I have, and
yeah.
that's how I
A-
put it.
and good point that you bring up transitioning from engineering to more business type of relation or sales.
Yeah.
What would you say were the three or key things that helped you get there?
Three things that help me, you know,
Well, not
transition.
three. Well, the things that you feel made an impact. You know.
Yeah. So one of them is just again, it has to be that product. Sorry, not product. Problem solving.
Okay.
Right. Everyone that you're trying to sell to, not even just anyone you're trying to sell to. Every relationship that you have right now, where people want to come to you and talk to you about, hey man, I just went through something. I mean, I just had a conversation with, you know, a friend of ours, was Abdul,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
We had a conversation, and from that conversation, I already had two um, ideas of what I'm gonna do,
Okay.
right? Just based on, oh, we're just chatting. So guess what? If you are having an issue tomorrow, even if Abdul is somebody who is not the nicest person, right? You're most likely going to want to speak to that person,
Correct.
right? Because again, Abdul is a great guy, by the way,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. For
right?
sure. Yes.
But that's just what I mean by just having that problem solving skill where you're able to, you know, just listen to someone, empathize, but not just be like, yeah, you know, that's how things work. Just being
Mhm.
able to, oh, what about this? Have you thought about that? Right. So that's one area where, you know, for me, I'm always trying to see, hey, how can we solve this? Now, I'm not saying that you know, my ideas are the brightest,
Mhm.
but I mean, it might move us from A to B, right? So that's one. The second one is just having being like having that interpersonal skill where you're actually able to just communicate with people,
Yeah.
right? I feel like it's a lost art, and also because a lot of people just want to be left alone. Like I know most engineers that I work with, we just want to go into our cubicle. You send me the drawing, or I go in there, I get the work done, and that's it, right?
What would you say you learn? You're saying being able to converse and talk with people is a lost art. Did you say? Would you say you got that skill set from Nigeria?
I think I would.
Yeah, because I noticed that you know how
I think I would.
the you know I would say like how society here is
Yeah.
different from the way it is back
Yes.
in Sierra Leone, in
Yeah.
something Sierra Leone, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Nigeria, right? We all
Yeah.
have, I think we all have like the same type of community or
Yes.
society, and how people are much more interpersonal, people are much more relationship oriented and stuff like that, coming from
Hmm. Yeah,
a neighborhood where you pretty much know everybody and you sit
exactly.
and talking with everybody.
You have to.
Would you feel you have no choice?
Even when you don't want to, guess what? You have to speak to. No, no, I totally agree. Because I wouldn't just say it's just the environment, but also my family. We have a business oriented family, so you know
Hmm.
from day one, all my parents have been entrepreneurs, and you
Okay.
can't you can't do business without. And obviously we worked with them as well.
Hmm.
You can't do business without talking to people. I mean, I wish it's not like I enjoy it so much that I can't live without it. But there are some times where I just wake up and I just want to do my little work in my own cubicle and be done. If I'm being totally honest, but yeah, it's something that over the years it gets, and that's why it's a lot easier for me to work with people. Um, because even when I am not able to have the answer,
Yeah.
right? I'm able to go speak to the person that has the answer because that's that's very important. I know a lot of the time I'm going to say maybe more than half of the time I don't have the answer. But if you work in an organization where you actually have great minds, or you work with people who are actually really smart, you can go
Hmm.
strike up a conversation with them, and and then be able to get the right answer. And I feel like more than half of the time, it's you don't even know you need to have the answer. You just need to be able to ask the right question,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So if you're able to know what questions to ask, guess what? You're already closer to
Yes.
solving a problem.
Hmm.
So that's that. Being able to have a problem, but also being able to initiate those conversations, like, and just chat with people and see what their I've worked with some people, especially when I was in engineering. uh I didn't have all the answers, and also some of these people are not the easiest to have conversations with.
True.
There's a particular person in mind. This guy is
Hmm.
great at his job,
Hmm.
right? But he's not the easiest to talk with. But we are actually, friends, where I go to his office and we chat, and you can see other people bring in work, and it's just like, that one is gonna sit there, right? But because you have that communication with him, he
Yeah.
prioritizes your work, right?
Yeah.
So,
So it's all
it,
about relationship building.
oh, that's why for me, till tomorrow, I'm always big on relationships, right? Because if you really think about it,
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why um, I mean, I think it's getting better now because our community, and when I mean our community, our Black or African communities are getting bigger. But
Yeah.
imagine if that by the time we both moved here, we already had connections or communities of people that have been through what we are
Or
looking to go through, and are able to be like, hey, do this, do that, look out for this. I mean, there are so many, every stage of my life that I've gone through. I'm not saying that I've passed it with flying colors, but there's definitely something that someone can take from me,
correct.
right? Windsor. When I was in Windsor, yes, I had all the opportunities that were coming my way, or even the ideas that I had. Where was it coming
Hmm.
from? From speaking to you guys who were here before us, from speaking to people like Chito and the rest who were.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, the reason why there was a rush to go to Alberta at the time
Yeah. It's like a mass exodus.
is just because people were telling us
You got to go to Alberta.
exactly.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm saying that. Imagine if you had other relationships here. There, I mean, Ike is in BC here with me. Oh, he's in Kamloops. He has a great opportunity. He's working here in BC. But if you didn't know that there was an opportunity or maybe something here that you should be looking at, you might miss out on that.
Correct.
or he might have
information.
missed out. So that's why for me, yeah, relationships is very important.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to what you're saying. It's very difficult, trying to figure things out when you're new in a place and you got nobody to reach
Oh
out
yeah,
to.
oh
Right.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always been fortunate, um, because I mean, I think I was listening to your chats with Arise. He moved here and he had his auntie.
Mhm.
You land with your auntie. At least that gives you a soft landing,
Exactly.
right? I I had nothing. As a matter of fact, the place I spent my first night, I didn't even know the guy, right? But today, we're really good friends, right? So, yeah, that's why for me, it's always good to, at least put yourself out there and, be nice to people, genuinely um, want to, connect with people,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And I do know, till tomorrow, that's why, someone like Oteri, I always hold them in high regard because even when I first moved here, I didn't even have enough money to pay for my tuition, right? But there were some ideas that Terry gave me at the time that I'm even too ashamed to mention here. But those opportunities gave me; those were how I was able to pay for tuition and
Mhm.
graduate. Right?
Yeah, and I think Cheeto was also a very good
Oh yeah,
source of
as
information because he
there
gave me some good information too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that. So imagine if we were to grade those information that those people gave you, and you can say that okay, this person gave me an 8 out of 10,
Oh yeah, big time
right?
information.
Imagine if you had somebody else who was giving you 9 or 10 out of 10.
Hmm.
For example, I ran into Vincent. I'm not sure if you know him, but
No, game doesn't ring a bell.
okay, he was I think he was in civil or something, civil engineering.
Okay.
Very, humble, really quiet guy. But at the time when I was talking, I didn't even know who he was, what he did, none of that stuff. Later on, that's why I started finding out that oh, this guy is actually doing internships. We're in the same master's program, but he's
Uh-huh.
doing internships in Alberta, coming back with so much money and completing the program that we are doing. Meanwhile, we are just running to be done with the program,
Exactly.
and those things actually helped him after school because guess what? You already have, just like you mentioned, those work experience or Canadian work experience.
Hmm.
That makes the conversation a lot easier
Yeah, for sure. For
when you
sure.
have it on your resume, right?
Yeah.
So by the time I met him and spoke to him, I had already passed the stage of when I could be able to apply for those,
Hmm.
and it was already too late. But imagine if someone was actually actively telling you, then do this, do that. So,
It would have been
oh
so
yeah,
much easier,
oh
man.
yeah,
And looking back, I think that was one of my biggest. I would say it's like a mistake per se. It's just something I didn't know, right?
yeah,
And I was also more of a quiet person,
hmm,
right? So I was not into relationship building. I
yeah,
didn't know that
yeah,
back then. But I mean that's why we're having this conversation today,
yeah.
So
No, I agree.
people coming after us don't make the same mistakes that we did. Right?
Yeah.
It could be a lot more easier for them.
Hmm.
Right?
Oh, I agree because there was so much that I wish I wouldn't say so much, but there are just one or two tidbits here that would have
Yeah,
just been a lot make your
easier
life a lot easier. You
when
know.
you. I know. But it is what it is. At least we gotta be happy or content or satisfied to some extent with what we have done. And
Yeah.
I have to say, Kingsley, you've done great. You've done amazing
Appreciate
things
you. Appreciate you,
in your
sir.
journey. I just want to ask this question. I have two more questions before we wrap up because
Okay.
we're getting to an hour now.
Yeah.
One is what's next for you, and
That's a
And
good
I want to put
question.
everything together because we don't have much time. What's
Yeah.
next for you? And then question that I always ask, what's the inspiration and motivation behind the journey?
So I'll answer the second one first because that one is a little bit easier.
Okay.
Um, so the inspiration, behind the journey, it's I don't know how if this was mine. And when I mean this, I mean the inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know if the inspiration was mine, but it just has to do with that environment that we speak about and we grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
where since I was young, they're telling you this is who you are, this is what you can do, this is what you should be aspiring to be, right? So that inspiration, from when I was young, I've always been told that, hey, I'm supposed to be this. So you start actually believing that, hey, this is who I'm supposed to be. And you start acting or chasing those things that are going to put you in that light.
Oh, before you go,
Yeah.
do you appreciate the high standards and bar that was set by for us by our parents?
So there are so many things that they did then
Uh-huh.
that to me um, was, I'm like, why are you doing this? Or what are you doing this for? But if I'm being totally honest, now I actually go thank them,
Mm-hmm.
right, for some of those things that they did. So the reason why I say that is because like there are certain and again, I might catch flack for this, but there are certain courses that I don't see why we're taking those courses in school and paying or taking student loans to go take those courses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a parent, to see your kid going to school for that, unless maybe they have like a dying passion for that,
Yeah.
right? I really don't see the point because a lot of times people just go in and maybe a GNC, tells you, hey, do this, or you're just like, maybe I'm just going to take that course,
Yeah.
right? So, so that's why I see a lot of benefit in them setting those high bars. But I also, have an issue with it. Why?
Why?
Because I feel like sometimes it's unhealthy, or the way it's being, um,
Mm-hmm.
sold to us is unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I feel like it's more of a middle ground where
Okay.
you push your kids. And I always try to tell people this, that if my kids, or before they turn 18, right, if you're living under my roof, you pretty much have to do what I think is best for you, right?
Okay.
After you, and again, this is a personal, after you turn 18, if you want to, chase and be a pickleball player or whatever it is, that just using that example, no
Mm-hmm.
shade to pickleball players, professional players. If whatever it is, if you want to be an artist, or a musician, whatever, if you want to do that, sorry, go ahead, right? But before then, I'm going to be preparing you with, or giving, trying to give you some of those life skills that are really going to help you um, be useful in the society. I'm not saying that pickleball players are not useful, but
Mm-hmm.
really, because there are really certain skills that you need to be able to get meaningful work that is going to pay for your bills these days. Because, bro, it's really, and I do understand that people are making millions on TikTok or stuff like that. I have no problem with you doing that, but you always have to have a backup.
Yeah. Because only the 1% would actually
Ex-
make serious money out of it.
Exactly. Because, like you mentioned, 1%, you don't see the additional 99%. But, I went to school as an electrical engineer, all of that stuff. I'm not doing that right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but if I wanted to fall back on, the reason why I'm doing sales or business development or something else, and I'm not saying that you can't do it otherwise, but it just also does help because I can sell to engineers, or I can also sell to, maybe someone in tech or someone in that, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot more to work with.
Correct.
And in life, sometimes you really don't know which of your opportunities is going to work out, So that's why it's always good to have options. So yes, them making us do those things definitely gives us a good foundation. And obviously, what you do afterwards is totally up to you. But I always do appreciate them for giving us those right foundations to just inspire to do more, be more.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and then what next? I'm still working on that one. I'm not even gonna lie. That's I still see myself working in you know uh, sales or business development for a time
Mhm.
being. I really feel
But
like
but you alluded at during a conversation, you were
yeah,
saying, "I'm not the CEO yet."
yes,
So I kind of see there is a next chapter. I
oh yeah,
see something there.
oh yeah, because I always feel like when it really comes to because I've seen some of my friends who are doing the 9 to 5. They're great at it, and they're
Yeah.
making great money, all of that stuff. I applaud them for it.
Hmm.
But I also feel like, especially in this country, or it does pay you more to actually have your own business, right? Otherwise, you're going to be paying a lot more. And I'm not saying that people who own their own businesses don't, but
Hmm.
and I also have that interest where personally, I just would like to give myself a little bit more leverage wherever it is that I'm working. So if the right idea comes to mind, or perhaps I have, maybe the right funding to do, it doesn't even have to be a whole great new idea. It could just be that, oh, I can do this thing in a different way and still be successful. Yeah, sure. Why wouldn't I do that? Right. So that's really obviously the holy grail in terms of how things could work out. Yeah, that could be my next step. But ideally, I also want to do that when I'm a little bit more settled in the location that I want to be in.
Hmm.
Not sure if it's gonna be in Vancouver, but you get married, perhaps you start having kids.
It's
You know that okay, this is where I'm probably gonna be for the next three,
oh yeah.
five,
All
five
that
years.
decision is not yours anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm a little bit more consistent, yeah, sure, I would really dive more into that. Um, but for now, I'm just building up more skills, more life experience that potentially would help me when that stage comes.
Exactly, exactly. Before you make a move,
Hmm.
you gotta do the work. All right. So
And uh, again, having a business is not it's not so it's not as glorified as it is because the
yeah,
same way I can clock out of my job
nine
and
to
not
five is now 9 to 12, basically.
it might be
Uh,
9 to 2 for some people, right? I've seen my parents work till late because hey, if you don't do it, no one is going to do it.
no one is gonna do it. Yeah.
So I do see that there is a lot of value in it, but I also want to make sure that if that's something I wanted to do, that I'm also ready to take on whatever comes with it as well.
Yeah, it's all about timing. More about
Yeah,
timing, making sure you do the right move at the right time.
I
But
agree.
Kingsley, we are almost at an hour now, and I don't want to
Mhm.
go too long on this. But
Yeah.
I have to say we've had a very good conversation, great insight into how you do things and how you move. And before you go, though,
Hmm.
you have to answer my rapid fire questions. That's for sure.
No problem.
All right. So it's 1 second. What for you to answer? If the answer doesn't look nice or doesn't make sense to me, I'm gonna ask you why though.
Okay.
So I have about 5 questions for you, and we're gonna
Okay.
run through it quickly. All right. So, what's the best date night spot to go to in Vancouver? I have a reason why I asked you this question.
Hmm. So the best date night spots, I would say, probably in Yale Town. I don't know
Yale
if
Town.
I don't know if it's
So,
Yale Town. So the reason why I pick Yale Town is because
uh,
they just have a lot of food choices, right? And usually, if I'm going on a date, I like food, or it's just the most acceptable exercise or activity to do. So I like
mhm.
the restaurants in Yale Town a lot.
So Yale Town is where the clock is, right?
Is it? I
The
think.
steaming clock.
Oh yeah, the steam clock. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Next question.
yes,
I know you love concerts, man. I've seen all your concerts. I see you going to concerts and things like that. So I had
yeah.
to ask you this one. So, what's your three best Afrobeat concerts you've been to?
Three best Afrobeats
And rate
concerts.
them one to three. You gotta
Okay,
rate them 1 to 3. Yes.
so number one is seeing Burna Boy live.
So, Burna Boy is
Yeah,
best
Burna Boy.
performer.
Yeah, I would say Burna Boy is my best performer.
Okay.
Right, top performance. I want to say Adekunle Gold was like
Hmm.
I
That's
think
okay.
Adekunle Gold was also top there.
Okay.
And
That's a strange one.
yeah, it's I saw him and I was actually I'm glad I did.
Okay.
And then the third one, I don't want to say. So I wouldn't. I would throw Davido in there.
Davido.
I
Okay.
wouldn't say because of the performance. I don't think he's a great performer. It was
Mm-hmm.
just because seeing him in Madison Square Garden, there was just something about how far we've come. Because I know when you and I came to this country, I remember this because I can't remember if you came with us that day, but I remember my first, oh, let's go clubbing or let's go out in
Mm-hmm.
Windsor, going out, and it was just, what is going on here? Especially when you just moved, you're like, why are we dancing to this?
I
Right.
know.
So transitioning that back to the fact that I can actually go to Vancouver to an all black or all Afro beats, it's just great for the culture, right?
True.
So
True.
so
True.
that's why I want to also throw that in because it really gave me a good feeling knowing that I'm in like the one of the biggest cities in North America, and then we're just listening,
To
playing,
Afrobeat.
dancing Afro beats. Yeah.
Yeah. It's now that you talk about it, I can remember. I think they would play like dancehall towards the end of the night. That's
Yeah.
all we'll get. But mostly it's mostly
Yeah.
all this mainstream type of music that was
Yeah, and
coming through.
I didn't know how to dance to all of that. I was like, what are
Those
we
tech,
supposed to do
those
now?
techno, you just gotta jump around.
Yeah, man, it was so weird to me at the time, so it was hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but anyway, it's great to see how far we've come.
yeah.
So I have a question. Next question I have for you is because I want you to call Arise or Arise to call you.
Mm.
Right. So who's your king of Afrobeat? And do you like the direction that Afrobeat is going right now?
My king of Afrobeats. I mean, for me, it's easy. It's Burna Boy.
Bono Boy.
Yeah, I think I would say it's Burna Boy.
Arise was the other guy, the legend. I think Bono Boy's
Oh, fella.
mentor fella. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you guys need to talk about that.
Yeah.
You gotta meet a settle it.
So again, like I said, I'm probably gonna catch slack on this one, but
Uh-huh.
fella was singing about the things that they were going through at the time,
Okay, more
right?
conscious.
Right. It was really talking about a lot of the things that the daily Nigerians were going through at
Okay.
the time. If I'm being honest,
Mm-hmm.
more than half of that, I really didn't go through it, right? If I'm being honest, right? Did I
Yeah.
go through police brutality? I didn't. Did I see people who? Yes, I did. Um, but I just relate more with Burna Boy, right? And also I also look at the vessel,
Mm-hmm.
and what I mean the vessel in terms of Fela's life, in terms of the amount of wives, how he died.
Okay.
Again, and I'm not saying that, oh, that might not be, Burna Boy, but
Mm-hmm.
so far he's carried himself a lot better, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why he's been a little bit more acceptable
No.
um, everywhere he's went, and
Interesting that you brought that up because I've never actually looked into, you know, Fela as an individual. It was more about his song and his
yeah,
popularity. Yeah.
because you can't be. I feel like health is the biggest wealth, right? So if you're doing things um, that are not going to put you or give you the chance to actually continue to make the impact, it's just something that I'm just wondering. Like, I feel like you have to be um, love yourself first before you're able to give love,
True.
right? So if you're not doing those things that are going to keep that's just one area that for me I had a problem. But again, I know people might have other questions, call me out on this part, because everyone sort of puts him high up there. I also do put him high up there, but
Hmm.
just because of what I have seen Burna Boy do, I wouldn't say I lived through, even though I did a little bit, but I was mostly young. I didn't see that. Or
Okay.
I didn't feel it. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Second part of the question: do you like the direction that Afrobeat is going now?
Oh yeah, I think that Afrobeat is. I like the direction it's going. I don't have any problems with it, because you have to understand that just the same way you said that prior to now, all we would get is they'll play maybe dancehall,
Hmm.
right? Now we are even. I don't want to say we are bigger than dancehall, because dancehall has been here for a long time.
Correct.
So I wouldn't say that we are, but we seem to be the thing now that
Yeah. Exactly. The thing
yeah,
now. Yes.
right, that they're pushing. So yeah, I have no problems with it, especially because all it has done is put us on a better light. Make our product, or make us a little bit more acceptable um, here. Um, because if people can listen to your music, they can, there's more things for you to talk to, your other colleagues about, right? So yeah, I really like where it's going, and I just hope that it keeps going in the right direction. Where, because you can imagine how many people have jobs just because of Afrobeats being
Yeah.
so big, right?
Mhm.
And now when we're going for concerts, you can have a concert here in
Selling
the
out Madison Square Garden, selling out the O2 Arena. So it's amazing. It's
yeah.
amazing.
So compare that to someone like Shabuzi, who is Nigerian, but he's doing country music,
Mm. I
right?
don't know. I don't know that name.
Right? He's doing country music. So um, that would also inspire other artists, to make even greater music. People who were growing up. I mean, if you listen to Burna Boy, he was inspired by Fela, right? So, and that was only because I think his granddad was Fela's, um, was it his Fela's manager or something?
Okay.
So you could clearly see that there was a direct connect where he was not just able to listen to the music, but also get a lot. So now that it's mainstream, a lot more kids are going to imbibe that and make even greater music coming up. So yeah, I know back in the day, our parents used, if you as much as say, oh, I wanted to play soccer, or be a musician, or artist.
Oh man. Oh man. You were in trouble.
So now, if you even say you want to be a doctor, or an engineer, they're looking at you a certain way because they're like, no, be a footballer or an artist.
Yeah, yeah,
Why? Because these things have really taken off. So
yeah.
I really
They,
like.
I think parents are now seeing the value in it. They're
Oh yeah.
seeing the kids could be successful. There's a market for people, you know.
Hmm.
So
For
that's
sure.
good though. That's good. So final question:
Hmm.
comparing your life experiences in Nigeria and Canada,
Yeah.
give three things you like about Canada, and then three things you miss about Nigeria.
Three things I like about Canada is, I would say, is the from this living here, it definitely gives you. So that's a tough question. So
Mhm.
it gives you a good way to be able to come at. There is. I don't want to say there is. I don't want to say there's a lot of opportunities, but I feel like it's easier for the average person.
Mhm.
Okay, let me not say easier. The average person here can actually be a lot more intentional about what they want to be and achieving that,
Okay.
right? So there are, resources that you can take advantage of to, really make things happen, right? So that's really one thing that if we had as much support in Nigeria to not only, you know, support us in being what we want to, but also seeing opportunities. Oh yeah, sure. I think things would be great, back home.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that I definitely put high up, uh,
Okay.
in terms of being able to come here. You know,
Okay.
um, the second one would be support from. Uh, would just be the fact that I know there's this stuff we call black tax,
Okay.
right? Where people back home are always reliant on families and friends to support them, right? Over here it's less, if it actually does exist, right? Why is
Mhm.
that? Because there is a lot more that the government does to be able to support people: healthcare, pension, even grants, all of that stuff. That makes it a lot easier for someone to be more self-sufficient, or at
Okay.
least at least rely on the government. Don't rely on your family members, right? So from that point of view, um, that's definitely something that I always um, appreciate. That being in this country makes it a lot easier for us. And then the third one, I would just think I don't want to. So this is there's a mixed feeling associated with this in terms of
Okay.
the fact that because we talk about mental health, I feel like here there is a lot more support for mental
Oh yeah.
health,
Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
right?
Right. Right.
But at the same time, the environment doesn't help with mental health because people are so disassociated. And also for an African coming here, you don't have a lot of family, you don't have a lot of
Mhm.
so that's
Yeah.
another. That's why I wanted to put that, or I want to put that, but I also know that there's a negative side. But
Mhm.
just going to focus on the positive side associated with it, right?
Okay. All right. Let's do that.
So that's really how I would, point out that if I'm looking at it, yes, the mental health aspect of it does help, because I know, back home, that's really not something that is just available.
Yeah. True.
Um, and then things I miss back home, obviously, number one, it's just like the connection,
Yeah.
right? And that's why, we spend thousands of dollars going back home because we're craving that connection,
Correct.
right? When we go back, you go back, you feel, even if it's just for a week,
Soak it in. Just soak it
you
in.
soak it in because okay, yeah, this actually does feel, um, this actually feels, it helps me with my. That's why a lot of them back home, they don't go on vacation. You know, why is that? It's just because just having a waking up, having a conversation with your mom, that's therapy for Black
Yeah.
people.
True.
Over
True.
the weekend, just meeting up with some of the guys you went to school with
Hmm.
down the streets, and you're just talking about soft. That's therapy,
True.
right? Being able to attend your niece's fourth birthday, you know, or your in her naming ceremony, that's therapy, right?
True.
Because you go there, obviously there, but that's just for me one of the things that also does help. Um, um, that I miss. I mean, the second part, is just the package. And what I mean the package is the
Hmm.
food and the culture.
Yeah.
Right? Food, culture, weather. Just those things that we don't have here.
Exactly.
It's. I mean, once in a while you can get the food, and then you have to wait till the
But the
summer.
culture, you don't have like a big Nigerian community in Vancouver?
No,
Oh,
not even
okay.
close. I mean, it's building up now,
Uh-huh.
but compared to like maybe Ontario or even Ottawa, no, it's
Hmm.
not even comparable. I know people who come here and they're so shocked at how many. I mean, when you were here, how many Black people did you see? That's one way that we
Good
look at
question.
it,
I'll
right?
get back to you on that.
So that's another reason why when you look at it from that point of view, yeah. Um, and then the third one, I'm trying to think. Hmm. I can't think of anyone right now. Things that I miss. I can't. Yeah, I think those are the two that are top of
So
my
the two
mind,
you
right?
miss, right? I think that's
Yeah,
pretty. I think that pretty much everything you covered up pretty much
yeah,
everything. Right? Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, those are the two that I remember right now. Because I mean, I wish I could still move back, but I don't even know if I can, just fully immerse myself like I was, doing before I
Yeah.
moved here. Because
Yeah. It's gonna be a journey. It's
yeah,
never like you go back and you fully, you know, right away you just click and you were the way you were before,
yeah,
right? Everything has changed. And I think that's the thing. We live this, I call it like this duality type of lifestyle.
hmm,
We're here, but at the same time we're there. So it's crazy. It's
yeah.
crazy. But
No,
anyways,
I
Kingsley,
mean, looking at it, I feel like I made a good decision. Um,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
uh, uh, Well, obviously, if I was to do it again, there are certain things that I would look out for to just make. But for me, right now, I'm just more focused on not looking back, but looking forward. Okay, what are those things that I can do, not just for myself, but also if there's anyone who knows me or my siblings or my nephews who are looking to come here, how can I just make sure that they're not fighting the same battles that I did, right? So
Yeah, sure, sure. Anyways, Kingsley, this has been a wonderful conversation.
appreciate it,
We
brother.
should we
Appreciate
should we
you.
should have done we should have done it earlier.
Yeah, for sure. But I totally
But yeah,
understand. There were other people higher up.
no, 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 no. It's
That
it's no, I'm glad. I'm glad. I mean, it's all about timing. 10
yeah,
years, though it's 10 years, but anyway, it's all
no,
about time. And I'm glad we had this conversation. And
for sure.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time to. I mean, we did more than an hour, so
Definitely my pleasure.
thank you for that. And I'm really proud of what you've accomplished so far.
No,
And
appreciate it.
I hope we can continue to keep in touch.
For sure. I have your number now, so
Yeah,
if,
we shouldn't take another 10 years
yeah, for sure.
to have another conversation.
If I'm in Ottawa, perhaps probably hit you up. But yeah,
For sure, anytime, man. Thanks a lot.
no problem. Take it easy and enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.